Ian was the kind of man who always carried himself with quiet strength. He worked hard, loved deeply, and dreamed boldly. But life, as it often does, eventually tested him in ways he never imagined. It began slowly, small losses, little disappointments, moments he brushed off. But then the storm arrived all at once. He lost his job without warning. The close friends he trusted drifted away. Even the people who once praised him suddenly kept their distance. Ian's phone, once full of messages and calls, fell into a cold silence. He tried to hide his pain, but every night, when the world slept, he sat alone with his thoughts, and the weight pressed heavier. The room that once felt warm now seemed to echo with emptiness. The walls whisper reminders of how far he had fallen. One night, unable to take the crushing loneliness, Ian walked outside. The streets were dark, the world quiet. He sat on an empty bench, staring at the ground, wondering how everything had gone so wrong. He whispered into the night, "Why does it feel like everyone disappears when you need them the most?" His voice trembled, and tears he fought so hard to hide finally escaped. For the first time, he felt truly abandoned. No friends, no family beside him, no one who cared enough to ask if he was okay. In that moment, he realized something painful. He had no one left but himself. And then something inside him broke. Not the kind of break that destroys a man, but the kind that humbles him. With shaking hands and trembling heart, he lowered his head and whispered words he hadn't spoken in years. "God, I need you." It wasn't a loud prayer. It wasn't poetic. It wasn't perfect, but it was honest. And in that honesty, something shifted. The silence around him didn't feel empty anymore. It felt like someone was listening. Someone who had been waiting for him to finally reach out. He walked back home with a strange sense of calm. Not a solution, not a miracle, but a peace he couldn't explain. The next morning, sunlight gently entered his room. It felt softer, warmer, as if the world hadn't completely turned its back on him. Ian sat by the window and breathed deeply. He wasn't healed. He wasn't suddenly strong, but his heart felt lighter. For the first time in weeks, he picked up a pen and wrote one simple sentence. "If I have no one, I still have God." And that truth became his anchor. Every day after that, he fought, not with anger, but with faith. He applied for jobs. He learned new skills. He prayed quietly before sleeping. He stopped chasing people who left him. He began rebuilding, not with desperation, but with surrender. Weeks passed. Slowly, the world started opening for him again. Opportunities he never expected began to appear. A company called him for an interview. His confidence wasn't rooted in others anymore. It came from knowing he was guided, protected, and watched over. When he got the job, Ian didn't celebrate loudly. He simply closed his eyes and whispered, "Thank you," because he knew he didn't rise again by his own strength. He rose because he stopped relying on people and started relying on the one who never leaves. One evening, standing on his balcony, he watched the city lights shimmer. And for the first time in a long time, he smiled, not because his life was perfect, but because he understood something powerful. Sometimes God removes everyone from your life until you realize He is the only one you truly need, not to punish you, but to protect you, not to break you, but to rebuild you. Ian realized that what felt like abandonment was actually guidance. What felt like loneliness was a lesson. What felt like loss was a path to finding the one presence that would never fade. He whispered into the night, "I thought I was alone, but you were with me all along." And that is when his story truly began. Because a man who has no one but God has more than enough to rise again.